সংকোচেরও বিহ্বলতা নিজেরই অপমান, সংকটেরও কল্পনাতে হইও না ম্রিয়মান। আ আ Once upon a time, 22 years ago, I was a young girl of 22. Like any other girl of that age, I also used to dream about doing big things in life, meeting my Prince Charm one day, and make a family. But that was me 22 years ago. Now, I'm Farjahan, a 44-year-old woman, a teacher, mother of 2 boys, a single mom. That's right, I'm divorced, and that's okay. Like any other girls in a South Asian country like Bangladesh, my life followed the same pattern: school, college, university, and then marriage. As a newlywed, I went through various types of abuse. And when I couldn't bear anymore, I protested. And result, more abuse. I met my ex-husband 22 years ago for the first time. And right after, we set a date for our engagement. My family arranged a big party. My then-to-be mother-in-law was living in Canada. She arrived just 2 days before our engagement, and upon arrival, immediately she wanted to meet me. And the next day, my father got a call from her. She wanted to call the engagement off. Reason? My skin is too dark beside her fairly skinned son. And in her opinion, I'm not fit to be a bride because I'm from Noakhali, a part of Bangladesh, which is known for poor reputation. So at first, my ex-husband was playing the role of a very loyal son. He called the wedding off. All my family members were deeply ashamed and embarrassed. Surprisingly, in a few days, he gathered courage to defy his mom, and we went on and got married in a marriage registry office. But there were more surprises to come. After 7 days of our wedding, I got a letter from him, a divorce letter. Why, you ask? Because my husband realized he actually didn't want to go against his mother's wish. In Bangladesh, you can withdraw a divorce in 3 months. All my family members were embarrassed because it was ruining their social prestige, and they started begging him to withdraw the divorce. And he did. And I was so horrified with all this happening that instead of protesting, I froze into silence. Everybody was blaming me, no one was talking to me, especially my father, and I was feeling like I'm a burden on them. Being locked up in a house for the whole day was the beginning of my life as a newlywed wife. My mother-in-law and my husband would go out for the whole day, leaving me locked in a house, giving me a big list of works to be done before they return. Wash the clothes, clean the floor, make dinner, but no washing machine, no vacuum cleaner, no help. No one was there to help me as a 22-year-old girl who had very limited experience of household work. But I tried my best, but I could never win their heart. Why don't you go away? You are not worthy to be his wife. Why don't you get a divorce? These are the things my mother-in-law would tell me several times every day until she returned to Canada. The only time my husband made me feel worth was when he wanted me in bed. After 3 months of our wedding, I got pregnant with my first son, Labib. And he got furious. He didn't come home for 2 days. He didn't want this kid. For the first time, I protested. I refused to give up my baby. In those horrifying days, each night meant have to perform in bed each day meant fear of abuse, fear of getting divorced, and threatening calls from my mother-in-law. All these things made me so ill that my first son, Labib, was born prematurely 12 weeks earlier. That is Labib. So when he was 9 months old, my mother-in-law came back from Canada, and I was pregnant again. But due to extreme physical and mental abuse, I had a miscarriage at 6 months, and then 2 more miscarriages in 4th and 5th month. My husband and my mother-in-law would hold everything against me. When I could not bear verbal abuse anymore, I protested, and they never forgave me for that. They would call me mannerless, they would call me disrespectful. Several times, I could not bear the mental and physical abuse, and I seek refuge at my father's place. But my father would send me right back to my husband. He would always tell me, this is normal, this happens between husband and wife. You have to stay there for your kids. And obviously, he would always mention, my disgrace will put my sisters in danger. No one will like to marry them. I had nowhere to go. I was not working then. I was scared because of more abuse if I speak up. When Labib turned 2, I started working as a teacher. Along with physical and mental abuse, I started having financial tortures too. Though I was bearing 80% of our household expenses, my mother-in-law and my husband would always blame me for wasting money. When Labib turned 6, I had my second son, Sadid. And that was the breaking point for me, Sadid's birth. That was the first time I started realizing my life is worth more than so-called reputation. That was right after this C-section surgery I had to give birth to Sadid. Doctors said it is too dangerous for me to leave the hospital, but my husband insisted me to go home the next day. Reason, his mother was coming from Canada to visit us, and he wanted me to go home and entertain him. And I started thinking that he cares more about his mother's mother than my safety. And that is the time I told myself that I have to come out. In 2010, when physical and mental abuse got out of hand, I came out of his house. And the next month, I sent him a divorce letter. All my family members were opposing this. My father didn't talk to me for several months. But thankfully, I had some dear friends and colleagues who were always there standing beside me. You might be thinking, life after divorce was a smooth sailing for me? No. The actual nightmare started after my divorce. 8 to 10 times a day, I would get a threatening call from completely strangers whom my husband requested to call me to threaten me. They would call me and tell me they will rape me, they will kidnap my kids, they will kill my dad, my sisters, if I don't go back to my husband. My husband thought he could scare me to go back to him. My husband took my kids away, and I was completely out of touch with them for 4 months. Then I filed a case, and after several hearings, he returned my kids back. He tried to win the custody by blaming me for threatening his life and ruining his reputation. After a 4-year battle in the court, I won the full custody along with child support. However, he never paid any child support. He never paid any alimony either. In my new life, everything starting from family, friends, neighbor, and the society as a whole took a new form. And that amazed me, surprised me, shocked me, made me emotional. But moreover, it made me stronger to fight back. I suddenly started realizing men around me mostly do not respect women, love women. They just try to take advantage. In my first apartment, in my new life, the landlord would call me every night after 11 p.m., completely drunk. He would ask me to meet him. And he would threaten me, no man can come to your apartment. You cannot go out after evening. When I asked him why, he would tell me, this is not America. A girl cannot live alone like this. And in my second apartment, an apparently pious neighbor, he was completely against me living there alone with 2 kids. But he never lost a chance of looking at me with lust whenever he met me alone in the elevator. I found it in a harder way how society puts down a divorced woman. One of my boss, I used to do a part-time job, so my boss used to give me right to work every day. The day his wife found out that I'm divorced, she put an end to it. One of my aunts was furious at me at her daughter's wedding because I told some of her relatives that I got divorced. Interestingly, the same aunt called me after a few years, requesting me to counsel her daughter, who got separated recently and who couldn't decide if it is okay to get divorced or not. She was going through an awful marriage. Finally, my aunt realized that it's okay to be divorced, and there is no shame if your marriage is not working. Another aunt called me after my divorce that I'm not welcome at her place because she thinks that I set a bad example in front of her son, daughter, son-in-law, and daughter-in-law. Till date, I'm banned in her house. When I got divorced, I was very scared that my kids are going to misunderstand me for who I am. But giving them right counseling and spending quality time with them, I can say it proudly now that they are my greatest strength. Instead of filling their ear all the time about saying what their father did to me or how bad their father is, I tried to teach them the value of respect and love. When I was locked up in that house, I never thought that I would ever be free and I could pursue my dreams. In 2015, I started applying for PhD, and I got multiple PhD offers from universities of the US and Canada. I got a research assistant position funded by National Science Foundation in University of Idaho, and we moved here in 2016. This free, welcoming society and community of Moscow, Idaho made my life meaningful. Statistics shows that 1 among every 4 women in the US and 35% women in general around the world are victims of domestic violence and abuse. I'm one of these women. I emerged out of it. It's been 22 years, but still I remember the first day my mother-in-law slapped me on my face. Reason? I didn't wash the clothes that she left in the washroom. And it's been 11th year. Still I remember last time my husband hit me. It was 3 a.m. at night. I was deep asleep. He was checking my phone. He found some text and calls from an unknown number, and he thought I'm having an affair. So he kicked me on my back. I fell down from the bed, and surprisingly, I told him what's wrong. He started calling me names, and I started arguing, and then he punched me on my face. It took me 18 days to fully recover from a severe back and nerve injury. I missed an important professional development training, and back pain became my lifelong friend since then. I could come out of that abusive relationship because I had some people helping me. But I could make it sooner if there were more people like that. So I really want all of you to think what you can do to help an abusive woman like Farjahan. In this audience or in this community somewhere, I can feel there is a young Farjahan there. I'm telling you, girl, nothing will change if you don't change. I'm telling you, girl, you go, girl. I have learned to stand up against discrimination, harassment, and poor treatment from men. You can do it too. You have heard my story. It was a tough battle, but I refused to give up. It was the 50% of what I went through. I have learned to fight for my right as if my life depends on it, because it does. If I can make it, you can make it too. And dear men, I just want to remind you, All human beings are born with an innate sense of kindness, justice, and compassion. My battle is not against men. It's not against any race or ethnicity. It's against oppression and injustice. We need men beside us as lovers, partners, and friends. And lastly, I want to mention, now my father is really proud of me. He would tell everyone that my daughter is a strong girl. I'm divorced, and that's okay. That's my strength. সংকোচেরও বিহ্বলতা নিজেরই অপমান সংকটেরও কল্পনাতে হইও না ম্রিয়মান মুক্ত করো ভয় আপনা মাঝে শক্তি ধরো নিজেরে করো জয় Thank you.